You guys ready?
Yep.
Pow.
All right.
I have not had a beer in a while. Let's see how this goes.
Okay. Pace yourself. Take your time.
I will. This is probably the last podcast for a while that I will have hair because I am one treatment deep in the new chemo. It sucks. It's been a week.
And it's going to be 3 months, right?
Yeah.
3 months.
Oh.
Yeah. I'm very scatterbrained, so everybody bear with us. These guys are oath bound to keep me in line, especially since we're going to talk about astronomy.
We can do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you guys haven't seen it, check out The Year Was. I will link it. That is this gentleman, Mike Montalvo's endeavor.
Mm-hmm.
And sitting between us is, of course, our grandmaster, Tim Kreitz Adventures. And,
Cheers, boys, by the
yeah.
way.
Yeah.
Here's to stuff and
Cheers to
things.
people who can't have normal hobbies.
Here's to the cosmos.
And
It's no fun in normal hobbies.
God
Right.
bless you, Sam Adams.
you just can't go wrong with Sam Adams.
Man, I'm telling you right now, it's not for a guy who's like a small scale local craft brewer by trade. It is very, very in vogue to hate on Sam Adams and Shiner and the like. Like it's a thing. Like there's just this deal going on in the craft brewing community where man, all beer should be local. And hey, okay, hold on. I'm all for local beer. Please buy local beer, but you can't always get local beer, and that doesn't make Sam Adams not good.
No, it does not.
And one of the main reasons I started homebrewing in the late 90s was because of Sam Adams. So they're always going to have a place in my heart, and they make good beers. Hello. There's just no getting around this. So enjoying this one.
We were on a sailing trip at Canyon Lake about a year ago, my wife and I, and we were out for, I don't know, a week or so. Spent a lot of time on the water, and it was beautiful. And the marinas there, really nice marinas, and they had beer coolers, and I wasn't out of beer. I just forgot to put any on board. So it was like it was in the truck or something like that this one particular day.
That's a huge mistake.
Yeah, I know. And we stopped off at very rookie.
No doubt.
Yeah. We stopped off at a marina, and they had Sam 76 in cans. And I just thought, man, that just sounds good. And to this day, that beer tastes like a sailboat on Canyon Lake to me. So I love it. And that's the same with this horrible Frio stuff. I still, follow your advice. I age it for about a month.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
In fact, I think there's a half a case on my boat right now, which is sitting on the trailer. So
yeah, any marginal lager or light lager, especially American lagers, if you want them to taste better, go to the store, buy yourself a couple of cases, and then find a cold place to put them for a month or two, and then they'll be a different beer when you drink them.
oh yeah, my liver's going, finally, normal chemicals. So we shot a little bit of audio for The Year Was. We talked about Hubble, and Mike took us down a wormhole into astronomy. And it's one of those hobbies I don't even really know where to start. So I guess we'll start from the start. We covered a lot of cool stuff in your episode, which is linked, if I didn't already say that. And I have taken the hobby completely off the deep end by building an observatory.
Yeah.
So
and I'm glad you did because I enjoy it on a regular basis. It kept me from having to spend all that money on an observatory.
I've been out there once, and I still tell everyone about it. So
you're welcome anytime. The catch to an observatory is they're comparable to a boat in cost. So like mine cost about as much as a used bass boat, and I did. My telescope's used. All my gear was used. The dome was built in Canada. I shipped it here. It's actually designed and built by a bass player, and we'll get to all that later. In fact, I'm also going to link an episode of Tim Kreitz Adventures where we ride out to the dome.
Yes,
that was a good one. I'll talk more about the construction of it, but it is a weather control device. That's what I tell people.
Yeah, if you want the weather to be clear. Yeah, just don't go.
If you want it to rain, I'll plan to go out there. Whatever. And I've been out there on nights. It's forecasted to be clear, and it'll cloud up. And the other thing, you get this thing after you've been into astronomy for a while, where you forget to go back to square one and enjoy square one, because I want the perfect image of such and such that I haven't gotten it, man. It's my white whale. And I look out, and it's a beautiful night for observing, but it's not perfect for taking pictures. So I'm like, screw it. I'll
Right.
do something else.
I'll tell you,
You have
man.
to be careful with that.
I'm always happy to help you with astrophotography, and I have learned a lot from you by doing astrophotography at your observatory with your rig. But my favorite times of us out there at the observatory is when we're just screw the computers, screw the
Yeah.
cameras. Let's just find some shit and look at it and enjoy it, and just there's an emotional thing that happens when you look at something that is so far away that you are seeing it thousands of years after it emitted that light.
Yep.
We don't
Yeah.
even know if some of the things that we look at every night when we go out to do amateur astronomy, we don't even know if it's there anymore. Chances are it's there, but some of it is so far away and we're seeing the light from so long ago. It could be in a different state than we're seeing it right now. That is, and then you start getting into stuff like space-time, and it gets really deep, and I just enjoy the mental exercise, the mental masturbation, as Sammy Hagar would call it, of just contemplating that stuff and pondering it, and be out there on a nice night or a cold night. It doesn't matter. Actually, most of the really good stuff is there to see when it's cold, but in Texas anyway. I just, it makes me want to do things like I want to go to the Southern Hemisphere. I'd really like to go to Australia just for the astronomy.
Yeah, I'd love to see the Southern Cross.
I've never seen the Southern Cross in my life. There's all this stuff happening in the Southern Hemisphere that I've never seen. Anyway, man, for me, it's very much an emotional exercise. It's a philosophical exercise of my mind as much as any other type of a scientific or intellectual exercise. It just makes you think about shit. It makes you think about your place in the universe. It makes you think about the grandness of it all. It makes you think about how incredible this universe is, how incomprehensible it is. It just has a lot of value on a lot of different levels for a human being to be into it.
Mike's episode, when we published it,
Yeah.
when you published it and we put it on the Van Caves Facebook page, it made me think about that word amateur that I put out there. And I think an amateur is a great thing to be. And you can also, amateur can be another word for lazy, is what I tell people. What's an amateur astronomer? Well, I enjoy looking at the stars and taking pictures, but I only do what I want. I've never been a professional astronomer, but I've done it in at high school and college levels, and there's a lot of crap in there you just don't care about. It doesn't matter, and a lot of people are into. It's a very big thing, Michio Kaku and Neil deGrasse Tyson, all these guys about string theory and dark matter and neutrinos and all like that. I barely understand it. I don't care. And somebody asked me one time, they were out at our dome, and they said, "Hey, how far away is that?" I'm like, I have no idea how many light years. I'll have to look it up because I don't remember it, and I don't care. You'll after a while, when you really study constellations and where things are, you'll start to sort of envision it in 3D. That Orion, they're not out there in a 2D plane that you're looking. Looking into depth. But I remember the simple things, and I know what I like. I know the things I want to see and what I want to take pictures of. And I'll see another astronomer, an amateur guy, take a picture, and, oh, man, I want to do that. And I love the photography end of it, but it is so rare to get a good picture. That's the thing. I went out weekend before last and did a photo shoot, and I took 400 some odd exposures, over 8 megabytes of raw exposures, and gigabytes, 8 gigabytes of raw exposures, and I've kept about 40. In astronomy, if I go out and I get one keeper in one session, that's a good night. So everything has to be right.
Yeah, your culling rate is much higher in astrophotography.
And it takes so much more. You have to take so many exposures, the same thing. But we can get to that. So right now, we were talking about wanting to do this at the beginning of the summer, and this is when a lot of people discover it. This is when a lot of people get into it. In my opinion, it's not the best time to do it. I like the fall and winter sky. But it's the best time to be out. The best time to be out at night. It's most comfortable. And there's still a lot to see. We got the Summer Triangle It's already up.
Mhm.
A lot of cool stuff to see. And this is when people tend to get into it. You go out camping, you visits in the country, you go to, we talked about West Texas, Alpine, Marfa, good place to see it. And so I guess the first way to start if you want to get into astronomy is just look up.
Yeah. Find yourself a dark, get underneath a dark sky in a lawn chair and just look up.
And I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, that's it.
Well, I know we kind of talked about it on the episode that I did, but that's really how I first got into astronomy, was just kind of going out there with Cub Scouts and looking up and just looking at constellations and seeing what was out there. And so, I mean, even today, anytime I'm outside and I'll start seeing, like, just a starry sky, I'll look up and start seeing, okay, where's Orion? Where's the Big Dipper? Where's, the different ones? And that's just something that I think's kind of kept with me every time that I kind of will go outside during night. So,
yeah. And no matter how long you do it, there's always something new to discover in the sky, literally and figuratively.
Mm-hmm.
It should also be pointed out with regard to the term amateur astronomer that some more than just a few, in fact, quite a lot over the past 100 years of astronomy's most significant discoveries were discovered by so-called amateur astronomers. So amateur is in no way a pejorative term.
No, but and I think you guys understand what I mean by it. Like that,
sure, I understand exactly what you're talking about.
And what if you're kind of a history geek, if you run down and buy a decent scope, which, man, I'm going to try to keep the gear section of this brief because I have a lot to say about that. I'm a gear guy, man. I love gadgets and stuff, and that's one of the things. But if you harken back to Sir Isaac Newton, and Messier and some of those guys, the people are early pioneers of this sort of thing. They didn't have the greatest gear. The technology wasn't there, but they were still. The Messier is the most impressive or most fun to me because you can pull out Messier objects in somewhat mediocre skies. I'll let you guys all link the Messier. The when you see it'll say an object. What's the Great Cluster in Hercules is M13 Messier 13, and he cataloged. These strange things that he saw that aren't stars.
There are some great Messier objects to view actually this month. A couple of them that I've been looking at myself.
Yeah. There are nights where you can do all of them.
Exactly.
When there's enough darkness, you can they do marathons where you can pull all 100, however many of them out at night.
I've been concentrating on Virgo just in what I've been doing over the past couple of weeks. Virgo's really good right now. So there's stuff like the Sombrero Galaxy. M87 is speaking of Messier objects. The M87 Galaxy is really neat because there's a black hole at the center of it, and it's jetting out on both sides. It's jetting out material on one side, and then it's recoil jetting out of the other side of the black hole. They think it's really neat to look at, and this is a good time of the year to look at it. So. This is just the good time of the year. Everything between the Big Dipper across Arcturus down to Virgo, the Virgo cluster, Sombrero Galaxy is another good one. And then
all of Sagittarius.
All of Sagittarius. Yeah. There's some really neat things between the two of them in the Hunting Dogs and in Bernice's hair. It's just you can just pick this one little quarter-sized or $50 part of the sky and just spend hours and hours and hours exploring around it right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and what you need to get into it, and like I said, you can start with just your eyes, and I think the software was called SILE, French for sky. It's a free planetarium type program.
Mm-hmm. You're not talking about Stellarium, are you? Are you talking about
Stellarium? Stellarium is a good one too.
I use Stellarium all the time, and it's free.
Download Stellarium. It's free. Learn how to use it. It will tell you what the sky is going to be like on any given night. So if you're going
from
camping,
anywhere on the planet.
Yeah. So if you're going to a relative's farm in Missouri in August, it will tell you what you can see and what you can look at. I use Starry Night Pro in the observatory because it does that, and it drives some of the machinery and different things in there. and it'll actually, you can get really crazy with that, and it will it'll show your field of view with, X kinds of gear in between, this eyepiece with, all this other crap. It's fun. And you can also plot satellites. That's a whole other thing you can do. It will give you an idea of what you're looking for and where it is. And there are tons of YouTube videos out there that will walk you through all this stuff. I love YouTube. So
everything's on YouTube.
Yeah, find a good dark patch of sky.
Including this here.
Right here, man. We'll get you
everything.
We'll get you started. We have on the table the main things you need to get started, which are binoculars and alcohol. I picked these up. I'm afraid to buy. These are my field binoculars. This means they are in my backpack, and they're from everything at my car at work to when I go hunting. The Aculon series from Nikon. These are cheap and they are fantastic.
Yeah.
I held these up to a set of Steiners, and they were just as clear. Binoculars will give you a good idea of what's out there, and you'll also get your first taste of what things really look like. So when you look at Hubble Deep Field, or even we're going to show a lot of my work here, our work, stuff that Tim and I have done in astrophotography, and you're going to see a lot of colors and a lot of nebulosity and a lot of clouds. Well, you don't see that, right, when you look through binoculars or a telescope.
Right.
Even when you go to an observatory, a big observatory like McDonald, and you look through a big telescope, you don't see a whole lot of the big, beautiful colors.
Yeah, you see the clouds and gases, but you don't see the colors. So, yeah, you have to kind of train your mind to kind of think two different ways.
We call them faint fuzzies. When you see something way out there, you'll see the shape and occasionally a wisp of color, but who knows? But our eyes don't process dim things in color. We process them in black and white. So when you're looking at, say, the Dumbbell Nebula, you can make out a cloud has that hourglass shape to it. And I'm going to show, I have a picture of Dumbbell Nebula. I'll show it right here. This is what it looks like through a number of exposures. You can actually see what it consists of, that it's, I believe it's a supernova remnant.
Yes.
Am I right?
I think that's right, yes.
So if you imagine this image right here that you're looking at in black and white and kind of a faint fuzzy sort of nebulous cloud thing, that's what you see. But you're seeing something, I can't remember how many light years away that is. It'll come to me later. But you're seeing it with nothing but some glass between you and it.
Right.
So that's pretty amazing. If you ask me.
Yeah, everything about it is pretty fascinating. Another thing that you don't always realize, especially before you get into astronomy, is that sometimes the star you're looking at isn't a star. It might be two stars.
Yep.
It might be a nebula. One of the stars in Orion is actually a nebula. One of the quote-unquote stars in his belt is a nebula.
It's in the sword, yeah.
Yeah, oh, in the sword, that's right.
Yeah, that's a cool. I
the
love
Orion
to do that.
Nebula.
If you don't know, when you have a really good sky, how good is this? Well, look at Orion, and you see his belt, and then the three bright stars, the most prominent thing you see, in the Orion constellation, and follow his belt. There's three stars in the belt, and look at the center one, and then use what's called averted vision. You look around the object. You don't look directly at it, but look around, and you'll notice, like Tim said, that's not a star. That's fuzz. It's actually fuzzy. And then get out your binoculars and look at it. And then I'll put up my image of Great Orion Nebula right here, and this is what it looks like through many hours of exposure. I can't remember how many. You were with me when I did that one, right?
It was a long time, yeah.
And that's also processed. And I thought of a cool analogy well after Mike asked us about how we don't truly know what color things are. And I found a good way to explain that from experience. So the topic on Mike's podcast, we said we don't know what color something is. So if you look at most of my pictures with my gear, you're going to get lots of reds and blues with some greens in there. And then when I process it, it'll pull out some golds. Back in 2001, when I was a patrolman, we all got these cool new patrol cars, the police interceptors. and they had a new type of light bar on it. This is right before the LED technology was really there and affordable for everybody, and they're halogens.
Mm-hmm.
And so we had a set of blue and a set of red halogens. Now, rather than just the filter, the outside part of it being colored, the bulb itself was colored. So the light emitted a high-intensity color beam that wasn't filtered.
And they had chrome reflectors.
Yeah.
I remember those.
And man, you could hear them run over your head. So what you have is essentially little miniature headlights emitting a color. I'm sure the bulb was filtered, but I'm not talking about it. It's not the big plastic filters. So, they all had clear filters. What was crazy is when you see those things coming, when you're in a fight on the side of the road and you look up and you go, thank God, here comes the cavalry. Those lights are purple. There's the way the beams worked and the way the light radiated, the red and the blue.
The red and the blue come together. Yeah.
Right. So you're like, oh, great. I'm being saved by the village people, police or whatever. Here they come, because it's this purple light. And then as they get closer and closer, you discern the red and the blue.
Right.
You can actually tell them apart. And that happens, it may be emitting a red color, but it may be mixing with another color in there. Then it gets through the atmosphere, and it's aberrated one, and it goes through my rig onto the CCD of my camera, and it just says, I kind of think this is red. Poof, here it is. So that's what you get.
Yeah.
So
it's definitely an interesting process, and it's something that can try your patience at times, especially when you do a really long exposure on something and it doesn't turn out right. And then you want to take a baseball bat and destroy everything in the observatory.
Yeah. Get a telescope and have fun, and don't even try taking pictures.
No.
Until you're bored.
Exactly.
And then when you're ready to really mess with it. Let's talk about first telescopes.
Okay.
That's one of my deals. Spend some money. That's the first thing. Cheap telescopes, cheap guitars, all that kind of stuff. That kills dreams faster than unplanned children is what I tell people.
That's true.
I've given guitar lessons before, and I always hated to see a kid come in with a Walmart first act, because it's like trying to play a truck. They won't stay in tune. Right. They're just horrible things to hang on to. It's like if you wanted to teach a kid to drive, you wouldn't put them on a wore out tractor from the 1920s that you have to turn the wheel 3 times before it engages 2 degrees. You want them in something that they're going to be able to use to be safe with. And so I say spend some money.
Yeah. I say do that too. Now, my first telescope, my first 2 telescopes, one was given to me, and they were okay. They were definitely beginner, student level telescopes, your classic student level telescope. And then about 2005, my parents bought an ETX 125 on one of their trips to Fort Davis, and then immediately proceeded to not be able to program it and use it. It's the first generation ETX 125 that you can't, it's not computer compatible. It was just a little too early for all that. And they were like, we're never going to use this, so why don't you just have it? And I've had that ETX 125 ever since. It's sort of considered an intermediate telescope. It's a Maskatov Cassegrain.
Yeah.
And it works really good. It's a spot Cassegrain as well. And I have had, it does everything I need it to do, considering that I have access to all Matt's stuff.
Yeah.
I have a bunch of different lenses, and I can sit in the backyard, or Sharon and I can throw that in the truck, take it down to somewhere where a dark sky is with a good set, my big set of binoculars, or maybe another telescope, and we can have a great time with that. And the old firmware software that's in the controller, I know it like the back of my hand now. I can find, new discoveries that have happened over the past 15 years, which there have been a few. Won't find those, obviously, because it can't be updated. But that is what I have been using for about over 15 years now. It might be time for me to get something else, and I might do that. But, the thing is, like I said, man, probably half my astronomy time is spent with you now,
Yeah.
helping you do stuff, and so that kind of quelled my need to get new equipment, because no matter what I buy, I'm not going to have a observatory out on the ranch.
Yeah, you're not going to have a 12-inch Schmidt Cassegrain in a.
Yeah. But I will tell you that, man, just since 2013, when you got really, really serious about building the observatory and getting it going, and I helped you do that, and we went out there and built it, and my practical knowledge of astronomy and my interest in astronomy has grown. It has blossomed, as a result of that. And I've had more fun, probably over the last 6 or 7 years than I had the 15 years before that, And I was like you. I took the high school astronomy class, and I never did anything in college, but that was where I really was interested in it to begin with. And, they would bus us all over to the to the
That's in that Mike's episode.
Yeah.
Random bit of trivia, Mr. Hicks.
Mm-hmm.
When I said I wouldn't be surprised if somebody told me he was a gymnast, I had a random memory that somebody told me he was a gymnast, like in college or high school.
Mr. Hicks,
Mr.
the
Hicks.
astronomy teacher for Midland and Lee High
that's in
Schools.
Mike's episode. Well, Mike has a pretty cool set of binoculars, I know for a fact.
Yes, and I was going to get to that here in a second. The first telescope that I ever had, it was very much beginner level, and it really wasn't, that much.
You remember what it was?
I don't. And I've been trying to think about it, and I know I got it probably in El Paso, and then whenever we moved down here, it probably ended up in a box and just never got unpacked. And so that's kind of one of the things that I've always kind of regretted not really keeping up with it. And so I don't know a lot of the gear and all of that, but later on, you gave me a pair of binoculars.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
And
they're astronomical.
Mhm.
God, they're massive.
Yeah,
If they are.
I put them on a tripod just so I don't have to hold them up whenever I'm outside. And, it's whenever I go out there, it's just something completely different than just kind of looking up at everything.
Yeah.
We had that supermoon back in, it was February probably. And for whatever reason, I was like, I'm going to go look at it. And, hey, I have these binoculars. And I think I just about blinded myself. But
Yeah.
Yeah, they gather some light on
yeah.
you.
Those binoculars I bought, I got a, we'll get into that later, but it was a satellite spotting award that the Astronomical Society offered. And there was a space shuttle mission up, and I bought it for that. And I bought them for that. But those have, if you guys look up how to actually adjust a pair of binoculars to your eyes, there's a trick to it, and it will change your life when you really figure that out. Those did not have enough adjustment in the tube for me. And so I was like, I'll give them to somebody who has more normal eyes. So before I carry on any further, if you have a set of binoculars, grandpa's old ones or whatever you may have, there are very few just bad binoculars out there. But even if they're from the 70s or 80s, Japanese, whatever, it's probably got really good glass. And if you look through them and things don't line up, like I tell people, like you can't you can't see one thing. Every time you look through it, there's two, and no matter how you focus, well, they're out of collimation. And what I tell people to imagine, it's like a bad boob job that they don't point the same way. They're actually the prisms inside are out of the way. Get on YouTube, and all these have rubber coating, and somewhere on these binoculars, these are in perfect collimation, so I'm not even going to pretend. You can peel the rubber back, and you can find some adjustment screws, and with a jeweler screwdriver, you can put them back in line, and it will change your life. I've done these for a lot of friends, because what do?
You drop them, you take them out hunting, they go, you put them through hell. Yeah,
and being a cop for so long, somebody always have some in the back of their trunk, and you wind up having to watch a house from a quarter mile away, on a SWAT thing. And you go, you got binoculars? Yeah, just this piece of shit I've been carrying in my glove box for 20 years. And you take them out, and they're actually really, you look at them and you go, wow, these are expensive. These are really nice. Yeah, those are my granddaddy's, but they're a piece of shit. And you spend 10 minutes in a screwdriver, and pow, they're just fantastic again.
Exactly.
So look up how to adjust and collimate your binoculars. So, but my telescope, I bought my first one was actually a transit level, so like what a surveyor uses.
Okay.
Somebody gave me one of those. They had really good glass, and it was a Sears and Roebuck. And we did Halley's Comet with that.
Yeah.
Back in the day, and then I did some lunar and a little bit of solar and stuff like that.
I remember Halley's Comet back in the day. My buddy Mark Bozell, guitarist for Pump Jack, for many years. Brilliant guitar player. Super great guy. Also a pilot. I took flying lessons from him for a while.
Cool.
And so anyway, back in the day, of course, when Halley's Comet came through, he was still living at home, college student, and he's a couple of years older than me, or is a couple of years older than me. And his dad had an observatory in their backyard. He had this huge concrete circle with a proper mount and all that, and they had it seems like it was a 12-inch.
Yeah.
It seemed like it was some sort of a 12. But anyway, every night we had good viewing. I bet I looked at that comet. I thought, this is my one time in my lifetime. I'm one of the few human beings who are ever going to be able to see this with his own eyes. And so we spent just about every damn night of good viewing in his backyard, drinking beer, looking at Halley's Comet. It was wonderful. It was awesome.
So I did that. I didn't own a proper telescope. Now I've always had. I did high power rifle competition, and I was a police marksman for a long time. So I always had good gear. I had a spotting scope or something that was always decent quality. We didn't use. It was very much in vogue then for police snipers to have a spotting scope, and we only used them in schools. We very rarely fielded them. We'd use binoculars. And when you had a really just amazing quality rifle scope, we just didn't use them a lot. I mean, military guys do, police, we didn't have the call for it with the distance or the times or anything. But there was, when I started shooting high power rifle, I got into some good spot scopes. And there was a brand called Conus that was cheaper than a lot of the other stuff, and they were fantastic for astronomy. And it's just a refractor. If you own a spot scope, you have a good refractor telescope. Mm-hmm. And they're pretty good for astronomy. When I decided to get into it, I got a Dobsonian. Mm-hmm. And those are cool. The only thing about a Dobsonian is they're huge. It's like a cannon. In fact, I think I have a picture of my Dobsonian. If I can find it, I'll put it here. A 12-inch Dob, and it looks like a water heater. Yeah. So and the thing about that design, the Newtonian reflector that uses a mirror, is they will fall out of collimation. And you got to buy a little tool and watch a couple of videos and learn how to collimate.
So how is the light path through one of those?
Okay. So you picture a tube with a mirror at the bottom.
Okay.
So the light comes in through this tube, hits the main mirror, and then it's focused to a secondary mirror at a 45-degree angle, and it goes to the eyepiece.
Oh, okay.
Classic.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a Newtonian.
Gotcha.
Right.
Gotcha.
So from the star to the mirror to the 45.
And then to the eyepiece.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's also suspended by, they call it a spider. It's 4 vanes that suspend that. Now, the problem is all this crap flops around. So I took the mirror out of that 12-inch a couple times to clean it. It's about 3.5 inches thick and 11.5 inches around. Mm-hmm. And it's floating on springs. So you put it in your pickup. In fact, I had a buddy who's a mortician. He gave me a body bag that I used to carry it in because it was, it'd keep the dust and shit off of it.
Body bag.
Yeah, it has the handles.
That's awesome.
So it's pretty convenient. And anyway, you carry it around. It flops around. It comes out of collimation, and you have to get, you turn these little knobs, and you look through a special eyepiece that you put it in it. And you can even sort of eyeball it and tell if you're in and out of alignment. You have to do that. And unless you get, the more money you spend, the less you have to worry about that. But I've had people, hey man, I got this out of my grandma's attic, or I found this at a yard sale and it's just a piece of shit that doesn't work. Well, it's out of alignment. You just have to put it together. It's hard to figure out the first time because it's like being in a fun house. Nothing makes sense. You look in this tool and you see your eyeball.
Left is right and right is left and up is down and down is up.
Yeah, and you see all this crazy shit because
forward is backward.
Yeah, and then you look at a picture, you see a video, and you go, okay, now I get it. And that's how, somebody can hold a mirror up and, fix their hair from the back, looking through 2 or 3 different, you go, okay, now I understand. And then you can get out there and have it collimated in a couple of minutes. And the bigger they are, you got to worry about cooling and all that stuff. But the Dobson, the Newtonian, not Dobsonian, Newtonian, all the Dobsonian has a cool history. All it is a giant reflector, Newtonian reflector, that's on a base like a cannon. Mm-hmm. And the whole thing is you just shove them out on the sidewalk and have people come up and look through it. And that was the whole, kind of a street musician kind of way. I think Jim Dobson's still alive, the guy that invented it. And then my next one, I got a refractor. I still have that one. And that one has a little clock drive. It's an equatorial mount that as the Earth turns, the objects will move out of your view. And this little clock drive will keep it in there. It's really cool. And then I sold the Dob and some other stuff, and I bought the Schmidt Cassegrain, which is sort of it does the same thing, except instead of it bouncing 45 degrees out toward the top, it shoots out the bottom. Yeah.
And mine is a Maksutov Cassegrain, so I'm trying to think of how the path goes through that. Comes in through the tube, reflects up, and then back again. Yeah. And
it has a different type of correction. I have to look it up. I'll tell you this: if you're between Maksutovs are typically smaller. Most of the time when you see a Maksutov,
mine's 8.5 inch.
Yeah, it's gonna be smaller, and they're tough. In fact, I have a Maksutov.
No, it's less than that actually. Smaller than that.
Yeah, mine's a 90. I think 90 millimeter. So the nice thing about mine, it's a Celestron. Didn't pay much for it. It uses regular eyepieces, and it has a zoomable eyepiece. You don't have to collimate it. The way it's designed, I guess if I did, it would be a pain in the ass, but I've never had to.
I'm an idiot, dude. It's an ETX 125.
125.
It's 125 millimeters. Hi.
Oh, yeah. That's
Hi,
right.
guys. How's it going? I'm retarded.
I'm
Sorry.
Tim.
Sorry. No offense to retarded.
It works. So I'm trying desperately to clutch onto this thought. Does yours has a 45 degree?
Yes.
Okay, so that's a difference, yeah. So okay, that's where I was going. On mine, it's a Maksutov Cassegrain. It's 90 millimeters with a 45 degree angle deal. And the idea is when you're shooting a rifle in a competition, is you shoot, and I shoot left-handed, and you just lean over and look in that eyepiece and check your target. That's why and you kind of turn them at an angle. The other thing that does is what you see is correctly oriented. So what's up is up in your viewfinder. Okay. In a Newtonian, it's the other way. Which, if you're looking at space, it doesn't make a difference. Right. Either way. A little, zoomable with a nice focus. But I've taken that and clamped it to the cargo rack on my motorcycle. With it up on the center stand, like gone camping, and looked at stars and stuff. Cool. They're fantastic.
Well, and it should also be said, speaking of mounting optics, if you have a really good set or even a halfway decent set of binoculars, you gain a lot by putting those binoculars on some kind of a tripod.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you can have fun just laying on your back and looking through them, but you can really steady images and see things in greater detail if you can really stabilize them. And just a camera tripod, you can duct tape if you have to. You can duct tape it to a camera tripod.
Yeah, you can get a little clamp.
But you can get clamps. Yeah, they've got everything for spotting scope clamps and regular that have all the adapters that go to a regular camera mount and all that. So,
like I said, those binoculars Matt gave me had that little tripod mount on the bottom of it. It's just that standard connection, and I'll take it outside and put it on the tripod and just point it up and just start looking for stuff.
Yeah. Perfect. Have you seen a binocular? It's an arm, it's like a giant boom mic. So you can just lay on your dead ass in a lawn chair and it holds the binoculars up to your face. It's pretty cool.
I haven't seen that, but now that I know about it, that's the first thing I'm going to go look for.
That's some first world stuff right there.
And this is the other thing. This is another thing that falls into woodworking categories because there's a lot of geeks in our hobbies. Right. So we talked about the weird game episode.
Mhm.
That's where I learned about some of these games. As woodworkers made it. Ham radio. These guys always make all this cool wooden shit. Guitars. We're gonna have a guitar maker in here. Scott. All this woodworking. The astronomy geek woodworkers make binocular arms. And you just clamp it down. And you just sit there. And I guess you could put a straw in your beer and not even have to look up. It's pretty cool. I want to talk about the satellite thing. Why I got those. There are through the Astronomical Society a number of awards. So if you're kind of a goal-oriented person, that you just sort of have to have an objective every time you leave the house, or be competitive or whatever. You just like that accomplishment. Join the Astronomical Society. It's cheap, and you get there are all these goals that you can do. You can the Messier. You find all the objects. You make a log, and it's incredible all the different things you can do. Double stars, whatever. They have all these lists of things to do, and you get a little certificate. Well, they had one. It's called EOSOC, Earth Orbiting Satellite Observers Club. So EOSOC had a list of satellites and just crap orbiting the Earth that you had to spot. Did I tell you about this? Have we ever talked about? I don't know if we did.
I don't know if we've talked about the contest, but I know that
I was
about
going
the society.
through mega stress at work one time. This is probably 2008, 2009. And I bought those binoculars, and I didn't really, I bought those because I didn't have a good telescope for this kind of thing. The Dob is useless for it. I had the Dobsonian, and it's just too much. It's blowing out a candle with a fire hose. So what you do is you had to plot rocket bodies, which are space junk. Some of it's been caught in orbit since the 60s.
Mm-hmm.
You had to spot some of them during the day.
You can sometimes see the ISS during the day.
Yeah, what's the GPS phone satellite constellation? Iridium.
Iridium, yeah.
You can the Iridiums, Iridium satellites, they can plot when they're going to flare, when they're going to cast a reflection across where you live or where you're watching. Heavensabove.com. There it is. Heavens-above. Also, any of the software, Stellarium, you can update the satellites. The element sets, the physics of all these things are tracked and adjusted regularly so they can predict where satellites are going to be. Mm-hmm. And in fact, there's some nights I'll be taking a picture and I'll have a satellite photobomb me. And I'll go back and look and see what it was. Or if you're taking a picture and you're going to be photographing this chunk of the sky, we'll check the predictor to see if a satellite's going to come by and while you get your perfect exposure going, this little satellite floats by and you get a streak in it.
Yeah, it's
and
cool.
Some of them are really cool. The ISS, a lot of guys get some fantastic pictures and video of the ISS. I did the ISS, and one of the things you had to do to get this award was a manned mission. You had to plot one of those. Well, the ISS was up, and the shuttle was still going. The Soyuz was up there, and then the Progress capsules are up there. You can still see them. They follow the ISS, the supply stuff. It's amazing. And what was really cool, you fill out your logs and you mail them in. And handwritten logs was the option. So I sent them in, and I can't remember. I sent it somewhere in Colorado. And this guy emails me, and he goes, "Hey, I looked it over, and I think there's a problem with what you're doing." And what I had done was I had made a note, such and such was blinking, or such and such was dim, or whatever. And the guy said, "I think all you've done is you wrote them in the wrong blanks." He said, "Because this satellite doesn't blink and that one doesn't blink."
Okay.
And just in the flow of the email conversation with this guy, I'm like, this dude knows something. I looked it up, and he had worked for NORAD, keeping up with satellites. I looked up his name.
That's
so
awesome, man.
It was just that was kind of a
satellite
separate rabbit.
geek.
Yeah. And it took me a summer to do it. And I remember Bill Martin was with me. I was having a hard time seeing the daytime flares. So they flare. This is when a satellite flares reflects so brightly you can see it during the day. And what we did is we took my refractor telescope mount and we took the telescope off. So it's just these two big rings. And audio people, I'm making a ring about softball size with my hands. So it's just the rings that hold the scope. And we aligned it perfectly where it was going to be and sat back on a lawn chair drinking a beer, just staring through that circle, and eventually you saw the satellite. That's what it took to see it, because you don't really know exactly.
That's like trying to capture a solar transit of the ISS across the sun.
Oh yeah.
You got to get that just right, and it is an Augenblick. I mean, it's a blink of an eye, man.
Yeah.
So that's another thing I'm surprised that I'm sure they have a category for that as well. For solar transit of the ISS,
probably
capturing that.
I don't remember the thing about it. It's designed to all of these objectives that they have are things that anyone can do with reasonable gear at any time from any place in the world
without having to buy super expensive gear. I guess.
Right. That's
and
what.
It
that's
does
the way most
take
of
a
them
pretty
are.
serious investment of gear to get to be able to observe the solar transit of the ISS.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You got to do some juju. One of the cool things to do. I'm going to post a picture right here. I will be forever thankful to Bill Martin for encouraging this. A lot of people are into astronomical events. Tonight's the harvest moon, the blue cheese moon, the howling moon,
the blood moon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just like, I don't know, because it's going to snow that day that I'm going to look at something. Conjunctions, things like that. Meh, I may get out of bed. Meteor showers, bullshit. I don't even care until I get there. If we got a date night and we can go out there, I looked at Tim when I said date night. I was referring to my wife. But we go out in the country and see stuff like that. I just don't care. Well, Bill called and he goes, "Hey man, are you going to get a picture of the eclipse?" Oh shit, yeah, that is today. And I got a picture of a once in a lifetime picture. I'm going to show it right here of the Ring of Fire, or West Texas. Have you guys seen that one?
I've seen your picture. I've seen this picture you're putting up.
I'm sure
right
I've seen
now.
that picture. I just can't think of it.
And the way I took those pictures, it's very ghetto. I used a regular DSLR camera, my 5100. I got a piece of cardboard, and I cut it out where it would just poke into the lens cap. And then I put my circular polarizer in the middle of that. So circular polarizer, you twist it and you adjust how much you dim the light coming through. And it's made for telescopes. It goes in the back of the eyepiece. And then I taped all of it together so it wouldn't like blow off and weld my eyeball to my brain with all the bright light. But that's how I took pictures of those without damaging the camera or anything. And I've gotten pictures of sunspots and different kinds of eclipses and occultations and things like that. I think I have a Venus transit occultation. I'll put that up too if I have it. So this isn't rocket science. It's just astronomy.
Right.
you don't need a whole lot of expensive
You can
stuff.
make it as simple and enjoyable or as complicated and enjoyable as you want. But I will tell you that the more complicated you try to make it, sometimes the less enjoyable it is. It can be frustrating, but it's worth it. But when you get it right, there's nothing like that payoff. So I just I think that we have lost something over the past, 20, 25 years. It seemed like maybe it was just because of the people I was hanging around with, but it seemed like more people were into astronomy 20 or 25, maybe 30 years ago, like when we were in high school and junior high, that sort of thing.
I'd say I've never had that. That's not been my experience.
Really? See, I just don't know anybody except for you and a few other people who have even the most remote interest in astronomy. It's like the general layperson's interest in astronomy with the wonder of astronomy. It just seems like, I don't know if it's because it's the video game generation and the information age or whatever, but it seems to me, and I could be totally wrong about this, and I hope I'm totally wrong about this, but I don't know any young kids, teenagers and younger, or tweeners, or anybody who's into astronomy. I don't know a single kid. What do you think about that?
I will say the curve. Last time I was around the astronomy club was older. It was an older crowd.
Was it? Okay.
Yeah. I'm trying to think if I know anyone that really has any kids or anyone around that age group that has shown really any interest in astronomy. I can't think of anyone.
Then I think the information age may be a part of that because it's so easy to just pull up a video that blows your mind that'll explain something.
That's part of what it is. We're so entertained.
Yeah.
The generation like Matt and I are Gen X, you're Gen Y, you're a millennial. Your generation and your kids' generation, Generation Z, they have grown up with so much stimuli, so much entertainment. So you guys' brains, you're probably an exception, but I think that a lot of millennials and Gen Zs, their brains have just been rewired to think and operate a different way because of technology.
I can tell you, if you go back and watch the episodes about Telegraph Road and the crowd I hung out with, I can tell you we were already wired differently because of that.
Yeah.
And there was a long period of time that I didn't give a shit about board games or anything that were staples when we were kids. You know, when we spent the night at each other's house, we were playing Mastermind and doing crap like that. And then after video games and all, and I just sunk my teeth into that. Was all over it. But go ahead, Mike.
I just forgot what I was going to say.
I'll take another one of these actually if you're going to.
Well, I'll get around. I'll get somebody else. Let me get this thought out before it's gone forever. I took my Dobsonian out one day. I was so excited. I finally got it, and I put it all together and collimated it and got it running. It was getting late in the season, and this was around 2005, 6, and I got it on Saturn. Now, I'm going to put up a picture right now of Saturn that was taken either with a crappy phone or maybe a crappy digital camera of Saturn through. No, it was taken with a webcam. I'll tell you how to do that. Guys, remind me the webcam hack. This is what Saturn looks like through a Dobsonian telescope, through my big one. And these will run you, I don't know, $400, $500, $600. You can get them cheaper used. And I put it up. The sun wasn't even down yet. And I invited one of my neighbors over. And he looked through it. And I will remember he looked through the end of the telescope like I was pranking him. Like he expected to see a photograph in there, or something. He said, "Are you serious? Is that real?"
Yeah.
And if you're the kind of person that hits, and this buddy of mine he is not a geek. He was a textbook jock. And if my telescope was out, he would come over. All right, tell him, "Hey, man, come check this out." So people are into it. Now, there's also the gear factor. Some people are just not gear people. And you kind of have to be a gear person to really get into it because you got to learn how to fix stuff and clean, how to take care of optics. And there's some juju to it that I think a lot of people miss.
Maybe, yeah.
But at the same time, also, I'm going to get out the soapbox before I go get us another round here. I think there's so much Chinese crap out there that people go and they buy a kid a shitty $19 telescope. And I'm not, please don't be offended if you did this for your kids in an attempt to be
a good parent.
To be a good parent and a foster, but they'll buy a crappy telescope and the kid goes in there and it doesn't work. They can't, the mount is so shitty that just the wind.
They never have that. Because of the crappiness of the product, they never have the aha moment.
There's not, very well said, Tim. There's not an aha moment.
I think that's probably the problem I had with that telescope that my parents got me. But I didn't know if you had a
roll with it. I'll get us another round. You good, Mike?
Yeah, I'm good. What I was just thinking is I don't think people today have a lot of hands-on experience with astronomy and with all the gear and everything. And what I mean by that is that you'll see posts on Facebook or on social medias, or you'll see it on just a website or news site saying, "Hey, this is going to happen. Go look at this," or "Hey, this is going on," and people won't go outside to go look at that. They'll wait for the people that are into
post it on social media.
They'll wait for someone to post it, and then they just go over there and say, "Okay, I've seen it. That's it. I don't need to look at it anymore."
Yeah, so I've got some astrophotography I did of not the last full lunar eclipse, but the one before that. And it's actually a series of photos. And then I've got some astro that I did of the solar eclipse. And it's also stepped as I took multiple photos as it moved across. And let's see, what else do I have? Oh, one of my most popular photographs I ever did that's astronomy related is of the harvest moon of maybe 2000. I want to say it was maybe 2010. It was either 2009 or 2010. My wife and I went down to Fort Davis, took the scopes, and took the camera gear to hook it all up to the scopes, just so I could. I don't know. It was harvest moon, and I thought this is a good excuse to go to Indian Lodge and do, take the scopes.
Mm-hmm.
And I got some really decent. Thank you. And that's not gonna open. Oh yeah, Will. Hold on, Peter, man. I got it, Peter. That's my office space.
That's that's good.
Guinness pen.
The Guinness pen. I forgot the Guinness pen was sitting out. Okay, never mind. Anyway. So my point to all that being just simply the fact that you're right. That's one of my most popular astro photographs on Facebook from years ago, close to a decade ago. I guess it was 2010 or 2011. And people just couldn't understand how I got that photograph. And, it was kind of one of those moments where I thought, I'm a really unusual person because I seek out how to do this stuff and how to get good photos of it and preserve it. And everybody else just kind of sat back and was looking at all the stuff people were posting on social media, and they were in awe by it. Yeah. But I didn't have a single person tell me, I'm going to learn how to do that. Man, I want to get a scope like that. I want to do this or that. You're right. People are very content to just allow social media and multimedia to present these events to them when they happen instead of actually gathering that experience with their own senses. And it's fine. I'm glad they're interested in it. I mean, that's a good thing. But the sense of pioneerism, the sense of, what is the word I'm looking for? Pioneerism is not the right word. What is, I can't articulate a word for that, where you want to go out and get it yourself. You want to have the first-hand experience and figure it out yourself.
It's almost just that sense of adventure.
It isn't a sense of adventure. It's a sense of sort of discovery. I guess maybe that's the word I was looking for.
Don't let me go more than like 20 seconds off of this, but I discovered a YouTube channel today. It's saved somewhere. A guy makes tissue and paper rubber-powered airplanes from scratch.
I was watching that.
Yeah. And so
and they wind up like thousands of times.
Yeah. Now, here's the thing. Here's what you have to understand. If you were a kid in the 40s or 50s and you wanted a rubber-powered airplane that looks like a Spitfire or a Seahawk or whatever, you had to make it. Now, and then kits came around, and then kits got really big. Kits are gone.
Hawk or Sea Fury, that's what you were looking for, not Seahawk.
Sea Fury, there's another one.
Yeah.
Where did, what did I say?
Seahawk. I think that's a football team.
Yeah.
Maybe there is a Seahawk aircraft. Anyway, I totally pulled you off of it. Go ahead. My bad.
But there's kind of a do-it-yourself sort of scratch build thing that's gone, and we went on kind of a loop today. My buddies and I were on a really boring job together, and we were talking about how if you wanted a control line airplane today, that's like a niche thing. That's just not. They used to be everywhere. So
I'll tell you who used to build those. Yeah. Well, before we quit on that, I'll tell you a guy who was totally, just absolutely obsessed with building those balsa models. Britt Parker.
Really?
Drummer of the Tim Kreitz Band and other musical endeavors. Yeah, he'll tell you some stories about those.
I want to do a model building episode with all the rockets and airplanes and shit that we have, because we all have some cool shit.
That's another one.
Yeah.
Well, I got one more thing too, kind of going back to what we were talking about. We're just people not having hands-on experience with all of that. I was watching something on TV the other day. I don't remember what it was, and a commercial came up, and it's probably for car insurance or AT&T or something. But the kid in the commercial had a space helmet made out of cardboard and like a jetpack just made out of Coke bottles. And I was looking at that and I was like, oh, that'd be really cool to make. And I was like, wait, I don't see that anymore, just because people don't do that. If today you would just go buy it from a store or something like that. So I think that's kind of the same thing. It's just people aren't willing to invest that time.
Yeah. You can go to Best Buy and get things that are truly wonderful, like things that are miraculous as far as gadgets and toys and this and that. it only makes sense that culturally we've lost some of that, where somebody will make a fort out of 10 boxes or make a spacesuit out of a lid to a trash can or something.
Mm-hmm.
But that's where you learn how to build and design stuff. I've been watching this kid on YouTube. He's an absolutely brilliant. He's a genius, and I can't think of what his name is right now. Paul. I'm going to throw out a name that is not his name. Paul Speroli. Blah, blah, blah. Anyway, the dude is really into RC planes, and he thought, you know what? Why don't we just scale this up 1-to-1, and I'll build an ultralight out of all this same material.
Yeah, I saw that.
And he's built a bunch of ultralights, and they're all electric powered, and they'll fly for like 15 or 20 minutes, and he just goes and flies them, and it's awesome.
I'm gonna one more RC airplane thing, and we'll get back to astronomy.
Okay.
There was when the foamies came out, the EP foam, the foam you can buy at like Ace Hardware and stuff like that. It's a construction foam, siding, insulation.
I'd buy that for $1.
Yeah,
it makes good flying models though.
So yeah, they have little tiny brushless motors and small electronics, and people got together and they're making all these airplanes out of this foam. Of course, a lot of the old guys, you got to go out and grow your own balsa tree and cut it down and make her. You're not a real model. And what's happened is these 10, 12-year-old kids are making airplanes out of the crap at the hardware store again for once.
I love that.
In all of humanity, and of course the old guys that are going to bitch about it, but that's just what we do. That's how old guys are. Yeah. And there was a dude, look it up. They built an A-10 out of foam.
Flight test.
Flight test, and they put a gun on it and it's crazy. So.
Okay. Anyway,
I got to thinking,
astronomy and scopes.
I did us wrong on the props, man. I didn't bring my my refractor out. So, Stellar View, 80 millimeter. It's an F9. It's the SV80/9D, and this used can be had for a couple $100 on a tripod.
Type.
Crayford focuser. This is a refractor, standard refractor.
Okay.
And then Tim's pointing at the focal back, the 45.
Yeah, 45-degree angle reflector.
Yeah. So you would put, there's not an eyepiece in it, but put your finger where the eyepiece would go. Right there where Mike is. Yep. That's where you would look in. There would be an eyepiece that goes in there, and then you look through it. And then the big wheels are the Crayford focuser that's down there. And what you see right there is like a little air gun sight. It's like a $20 red dot sight that you use to line it all up.
That's a spotting scope.
Mm-hmm. Yep, it's a spot scope. This goes on a tripod mount. I took it all down. I haven't been using it, and I'm thinking about doing a little home observatory, but we'll get to that later. So I'm going to put a time marker in here, because this is going to be a long episode, and I'm just going to let it ride. Because
we've got to be close to an hour.
You're going all out on this one.
We're over an hour. Yeah.
Okay.
So first telescope, what do you get? Refractors are cool. Diameter is the king on everything, if you ask me. Or anyway, they collect more light. That's what telescopes do. They take in light and they focus it. And refractors don't have the bang for your buck that reflectors do, but they have a lot of other things. They're durable, and you don't have to collimate them. You throw and go, and that's it. This one actually falls down a little bit shorter.
There you go.
But they're cool for that. They're less temperature sensitive, a little less bitchy in a lot of ways. But when you move up to, I think I've already shown it, but like the Dobsonian that I had, and then I'll put up a picture. I think I have a picture of your ETX 125.
Okay.
I'll put that up too. And on up to what's in my observatory. The more money you can spend to get the biggest diameter, when you're willing to spend more money, now you get into how heavy it is.
Yep. And
it becomes less of something you want want to carry. This is good to have around if there's something really cool going on. Comet or a conjunction or something that I want to see from the backyard. I don't want to drive out to the dome or whatever reason, or I'm on vacation. Throw this in the car with a tripod, and boom, it's there. And then my other one is smaller. I mean, the whole scope.
And these are very affordable for what you get too.
Oh yeah. And this is I think these are Japanese. I can't remember. Really, really fine optics on it. I mean, it's a fantastic.
This is an Orion, right?
No, it's a Stellar View.
It's a Stellar
Yeah,
View. Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
It's an older one. The new one, there's a difference in the way that they handle color, but this is a good one just for viewing. It's not a great photography scope. But look at Newtonian reflectors. Don't get hung up on the electronics. I think that takes away from it.
It does.
When you get into the automated stuff. I've used exclusively, since I finished the dome, I have used a computerized system that I know roughly where it is. And now you guys keep in mind, I've actually literally had brain damage from all the chemo, and I've forgotten a lot of stuff. But I can't pick out objects like I used to. I used to be able to get a telescope and bam, I could point it at, a dozen Messier objects in my head. I'm not exercising those brain muscles because I have a computer that does it all for me.
Yeah. Yeah, and that is true. That happens. And even with the older microprocessor based software that my ETX has, it makes things really easy, because essentially all you have to do is make sure the batteries are charged up in that thing, and you point it at Polaris and you calibrate it, and then for the rest of the night you pick out what you want to look at, and if it's visible, it's just like with yours. It's just a smaller version of yours.
Yeah, mine calibrates on a GPS, and
yours.
bam,
But
off it
mine's
goes.
not GPS. Mine's analog. So you have to literally get on. You have to get it level. You have to set it up a level. You've got to get it on Polaris, and you need to enter in all the necessary coordinate information. And then but from then on, it does a halfway decent job of finding what you want to look at and following it pretty well for you. So
if it's something you're going to use a couple of times a year, 1 or 2 nights, I'm not going to poop all over the computers. They'll do the job. But just to get out with a Dobsonian that you have to swing and point by hand, everything, there's some magic to that. You really get into it.
And following. You find something that's
follow
moving and you have to follow it. And that's sort of an exercise in counterintuitiveness that you learn from as well. So
yeah, that definitely is. So, but yeah, refractors, I think if you're going to start with a refractor, they're great for photography. They're just a little tougher and not as good. This one is great for looking at planets and things from the yard. I've taken it out in the country a few times. It doesn't get the view that the bigger scopes do. When you start looking at focal length, and I'm not going to give a lecture on that,
and light gathering,
it's essentially your field of view. How much you can see. This one's a little more narrow, a little more paper towel roll, and you start getting some that open up a little bit. The Dobsonian, to me, if I had to have one telescope for the rest of my life, as short as it is, even now, I would get a Dob. Like if I didn't have my dome, and just to go get a telescope, and I'd roll it out in front of the house, and have neighbors come over and look at it, and look through it and stuff like that. That's just my 2 cents. So Newtonian reflector, maybe without a computerized mount. It just depends on how much you want to mess with it. The whole observatory thing. The reason I made that decision is I wanted a big, ready to go, flip a switch and it's set up giant diameter telescope.
And that's what you got.
That's what I got. I bought. Do not be afraid to buy telescope gear used. That is one of the easiest things to not screw up. In my entire career, I've gotten one scratched eyepiece. And I knew it was scratched, and I bought 2, one that had been damaged, and I just threw the parts together and made one good one.
Cannibalized it.
Yeah. Astronomers are typically geeks that take good care of their stuff. They may have had kids that got snot on them or something like that, and they clean up, but it's typically safe to buy used, most economical. I paid very little for the giant telescope that's in the dome right now, and it is a fantastic piece of gear. It's one of the Mexican-made Meads. They're assembled in Mexico, so the optics are made over here. And I have all-American Teleview optics that I bought at an estate sale. So a fantastic piece of gear. It's ready to go. You go in there and flip the switches and
cool everything down.
Yeah,
and
let it cool off, and you're set. That's the whole deal with an observatory. Now, it's set up photographically, and like Tim mentioned earlier, the telescope is sitting on a pier that was designed and built by my buddy Raul Aguilar.
And that pier does not touch anything in the rest of the observatory.
No, it is cemented into the ground.
Me and you could Indian leg wrestle in there, and it would not.
And we have
leg
wrestled. Yeah,
and it will not disrupt the tracking of the telescope.
Right. We can program it to set up and take a series of exposures and walk out and go do something else.
Right.
In fact, we've set it up and gone pig hunting and come back.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So like in one shot. And that's the whole point to an observatory. But take it out, look at some cool stuff, look at the Messier objects and know what you're looking for. And be impressed by the fact that you are seeing something otherworldly that's just being literally beamed to you from the heavens just through some lenses.
Exactly.
So that's it. And then if you want to get into photography, that is an exercise in a lot of things. I'm going to link another video, if it's possible. YouTube can handle variable frame rates, right?
In the
I will put in the description. I will upload to my personal channel a video. Some friends asked how the observatory is set up for photography, and I'll upload that video. 2 or 3 friends who are photographers said, "How do you do that?" And I said, "Here it is." And it's 2 minutes of just total geek crap of how it works. But you have to do several things at once. To take a picture of the moon, you can do it with a $12 holder that holds your cell phone where it would go. Like it's a holder that would hold it like that, like Tim's doing there. Yeah. And that's it. You can also buy a $20 webcam that pokes in there, or you can take a webcam apart and glue it into a 35 millimeter film can and jam it in there and pull it up on your computer and get images like the Saturn picture I showed earlier. It's no problem. If you want to get deep space stuff, here's my Whirlpool Galaxy photo. Bam. Very proud of this one. If you want to get something like that, now you have to get into tracking.
Mm-hmm.
And
you need software, you need a laptop, you need some coordination software. And
I'm gonna let you watch that video, but it is a juggling act, and here's the problem. Please hold. I don't want to walk on you, dude. I just can't.
No, I was just gonna say you can go as crazy as you want.
I am not enjoying the heavens at that point. I am repairing and operating a whole bunch of appliances. Mm-hmm. It's not. I don't feel like an astronomer anymore until that image starts coming through, and so it's a different thing. I'm not out exploring and looking for things. I'm taking a picture of the same damn thing I tried to take pictures of last week, and it didn't work. So if that makes sense at all, it's about the photography and not that. And then the next night I may go out and say to hell with that. I'm not even putting the photographic back on it. I'm just putting the visual back and putting eyepieces on it.
Let's pick some different eyepieces. Let's pick some different objects, and let's just
just make a list and go and take turns looking in it and have a great time. So you can't lose sight of that. And I went out the other night by myself, and I didn't even turn the power on. The observatory is solar powered, which I know seems weird. It has a solar battery system that I built onto it. Total geek thing. I didn't even turn it on, and I just pointed the scope to see what I could remember. Mm-hmm. Different things in the sky, and so there's a lot of stuff to behold on that. Just my thing about photography. If you're in it, you're doing it for the photography. So
right on. Well, boys, this was fantastic.
Yeah, we should probably get out of this episode.
Yeah.
We're at 1:14. So
okay.
I'm going to close out with a few more. We'll finish this episode, and I'll loop out with some of the pictures. Every photograph on here was taken by somebody at this table or is of their gear, and this is all amateur stuff that's within reach of anybody.
You can do it.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid.
Have some fun. Also, visit your local astronomy club. Go to Midland. It's the West Texas Astronomers. They do have star parties in town behind the planetarium. Go out. I used to go to those quite a bit. I should probably start going again. People take their traveler telescopes out and let you look through them. Do that before you buy something expensive, and you can probably buy something off of somebody there anyway.
Yes, exactly.
Because they're wanting to upgrade.
They tend to turn into swap meets.
Yep. Visit your observatories. There are observatories at colleges and McDowell Observatory. If you're in West Texas, go to a star party and check it out. If you have a friend that's into it and they post pictures, I guarantee you if you show up with a beverage of their choice. Ours is the Winding Stairway Observatory located in Blackwell, Texas. I'm more than welcome to let people check it out. Again, if I go out there and I crack the dome open that much, a tornado will sweep through. So just get ready for that. But don't be afraid to invite yourself along. Just
the one time I went out there to your observatory, it was supposed to be a clear night, and then it was a full moon and the clouds everywhere for it. So
it happened.
Yeah. We've fought full moons before too.
Yeah. Tim had to use stock photos on his episode because we picked a night that was supposed to be good, and we got there, slid the shutter open, and it was just immediately cloudy. And we, I went out not this past weekend, but the weekend before. And we were out there just kind of a family thing at my observatory. And we had been hiking and screwing around all day. And it was a beautiful, perfectly clear night. And everybody was just exhausted. They were like, dude, let's just go to bed. We're all worn out from hiking and hunting and stuff like that. So, but get out there and do it. It's not as hobbies goes. I tell people it's cheaper than golf and fishing, especially if you buy a boat or a golf cart. So enjoy. Enjoy our pictures, guys. Thank you.
Cheers, boys. See you guys next time. Let's take this thing outside.
Dude, what happens if you pointed at the sun?